Hey, this is Josh with Trilobite Studios.
And this is Carl.
And today we are going to be talking about a possible speculative feature evolution thing.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to describe it.
I think speculative paleontology would be the best general category to put it under.
Okay, so there we go. How do you want to start this?
Why don't you start it? This is your idea.
Okay, so...
I disagree with this.
Well, thank you for getting that off your chest.
Yeah, let me start by saying I think he's a wackadoodle anyway.
Alright, so as you guys probably are aware that grew up with Jurassic Park series, for example, the Dilophosaurus has a frill and spits venom, which I still have no clue how it does that. I don't think it's ever been explained.
No.
But going back to the frill part, honestly, I don't see the problem with putting a frill on a more accurate Dilophosaurus, because if you look at the frilled lizard, which is what gave the Dilophosaurus a frill, there's two small bones, very thin small bones at the base of the jaw that run down the neck that actually flays out to make the frill. Since we never found any evidence that says there aren't those bones because they're being so small and from the early Cretaceous, or no, not Cretaceous, Jurassic, sorry, who's to say that they couldn't have a weird feature like that? I mean, the skull recently just been changed to add a larger nasal crest, which is an extension of the nasal region. The kink in the jaw is not as protruded, I think. That was
pronounced.
Yeah, thank you. Pronounced. That we once thought. So I'm saying that with the weird animals that we have today, and why can't dinosaurs have weird features that are still considered not like crazy, but still have some weirder features that modern animals would still show as well. So since Carl absolutely hates this theory, I'll let him have the floor.
Well, I think you countered your own point in your argument.
How? I was just explaining.
Yeah, because you said that we haven't found any evidence that says otherwise. But we haven't found any evidence that says we haven't.
Or have.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. It's just an artistic...
It's not.
How is it not?
Because that's not what science is about. Science is about finding new discoveries and seeing what is most... It's about putting forth an idea, or when you're studying animals, it's about looking at the animal, looking at the evidence you have, and then creating the most accurate... Well, when it comes to paleontology, then creating the most accurate...
That's a very slim field when you say accuracy in paleontology.
Right, but then creating the most accepted version of an animal, right? And so if you don't have any evidence for something like that, then you should not put it on that.
Okay, so
it's like okay.
No. Before you start, I'm throwing this one on you on this time. Okay, so if you were to walk the skeletal hall at the Smithsonian,
yes,
and look at any of those skeletons,
mm-hmm.
without the knowledge of the animal in life, would you be able to paint a picture of that animal?
Is that it?
Yeah. Could you imagine that a skeleton of a cheetah would have spots? Could you imagine the colorful array of a cassowary with a wattle from a skeleton?
No.
So my point stands that some crazy features would not fossilize of small flesh or possible small bones in speculative.
But the point doesn't stand.
How?
Because there's no evidence.
There wouldn't be
I don't
any
have.
evidence.
I'm not using my imagination when I look at a skeleton to imagine what the.
Then you're not actually giving that animal.
I'm not using my imagination to try to recreate what that animal looked like. I'm looking at that skeleton for what I can see.
Okay, so the knowledge of the bulbous nose of a moose. There's no skeletal structure for that, so you wouldn't add it.
Correct.
Ergo, that would puts a hole in your theory right there.
It doesn't, though.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
How?
Because you're arguing that because we don't see it, then it could have been there. Right? Which, inherently, I agree with. But you're saying that we should add it just because. Not that...
I'm saying that just because we have no evidence for it, it doesn't mean it couldn't have had it. So if someone were to put one there, there's no sense of ripping a new one.
Because there's no evidence.
There's no evidence for a lot of things in paleontology, but yet people draw those.
Not really.
Name one.
Dimetrodon?
Is there any... We know that it has a large neural spines, but who say it was a sail? Maybe it was a hump.
Right.
There's both drawings of both animals. Which would you prefer?
That one, okay. See,
you're the one that brought Dimetrodon.
See,
pick your poisons.
No, I'm not trying to get into the weeds. That's like
that's how an argument goes.
But it's not, because you're losing the big picture.
No, okay.
No, listen.
Parasaurolophus.
Can I finish? Can I finish a statement?
Oh, you want?
I'd really like
payback from the Velociraptor one where he kept cutting me off. So
I'd really
this is
like
payback.
to finish a statement before you jump in. Your whole argument is predicated on the idea that because there is no evidence saying opposite, then it is okay to imagine something with a feature that may or may not have been there. Don't say anything. That's not my full statement. My argument is predicated on the idea that science uses evidence. And with a lack of evidence comes a lack of understanding. We might have a completely wrong idea of what an animal looked like. Let's say T-Rex had spikes on its head for some reason, and we just haven't found any evidence of it. But our understanding of Tyrannosaurus Rex is an animal without spikes. So to be most accurate to our understanding of the animal is to follow the evidence that we can see and the evidence that we have. It's not our place to add on speculative features. Our place is to look at the structure and look at modern animals, modern equivalents, or something close to it, and then base our best guess off of that. It might not be accurate to the animal. The animal could have looked completely different. But to stay in line with our understanding of science and our understanding of knowledge and our understanding of the scientific method, we have to follow that route.
Parasaurolophus has been drawn for many years with a membrane between the crest and the back.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evidence of that, but yet there's tons of drawings with it. So how does that fit in your little description there?
It doesn't. You'd have to get rid of it because there's no evidence for it.
Okay.
Just because it's accepted doesn't mean it's correct.
I never actually looked like that look anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
It looked weird.
Just because it's accepted doesn't mean it's correct. We could all think that the sky is blue. Let's just say that in reality it's not. Let's just say that, well, it's technically not, right?
I mean, technically it's just wavelengths that we're seeing against the sun's refraction.
Let's
clouds.
Let's put it like this. We all think... What's a good example of this? We all think that we all think that Velociraptor had feathers.
But there's evidence for that.
There is evidence for that. But let's say a few weeks from now, or a few days from now, they found very sharp evidence that pointed to Velociraptor not having feathers. In order to stay logical with our understanding of science, we would have to accept this newfound evidence if it is better evidence than the evidence we have pointing towards feathers. So to reconstruct an animal with imaginative features goes against, not, I don't want to say goes against science, because then it sounds like science is something you can go against, because it's not, you can't go against or for science, you are just studying it. But to add on imaginative features with no predication in the actual biology or in the actual evidence is speculatory and goes against the scientific method. Let's say it like that.
Okay, so what you're saying is basically, if from what I'm understanding, is just use what you have in front of you to with your artwork.
Yeah, use what you have in front of you.
Even though, like I discussed with skeletons in the actual animal, even though there might be odd features that didn't fossilize or have no way of fossilizing, you can't just assume and put one on.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because when you assume, it's making an ass out of you.
And everyone just looks at it.
Exactly. It's not like, it's you can't just assume and say, oh, I think I'll add a frill here, or oh, I think I'll add this feature here, when there is no actual evidence for that. It's fun to do that, but it shouldn't be taken seriously at this point in time unless you find evidence for that. And it is possible.
I never said to take it serious.
Right.
But what I was saying, and I'm sorry to cut you off, I didn't mean to, but I was in the middle of my thought here on this one, is we shouldn't just throw that ideas out the window when talking about an animal that's been dead for over 65 million years. That's what I was getting at.
But until we find evidence, I think we should, because to even like bring it up is kind of going against the evidence that you've already got.
So now to kind of put speculative features like a frill or something kind of on the back burner, what about colors?
Colors are subjective. That's something that the artist can like...
Because I've seen pictures of these animals in very scientifically represented pictures in drawings in their natural environment, and they'll be blue.
Right.
Or they'll be have a odd coat or something, and you're like, how would that even work?
Right.
So where's the fine line between having that artist's creation of their version of the animal and the science that is, for the moment, facts?
Well, the evidence for color is paltry at best. So I think that color is more subjective than features. Color is something that, I hate to say it like this, but doesn't particularly matter unless we're talking about the animal's ecological and environmental role. Features, on the other hand, matter when you're talking about the animal as an animal. An elephant could be white with polka dots, and it would still be an elephant, right? Do elephants look like that? No, but let's say we had no way of knowing what an elephant looked like, but we found a skeleton of an elephant, okay? We could probably reconstruct an elephant, something that looks vaguely similar to an elephant.
Well,
but with the color,
the giant ears and the trunk.
Well, no, we could do the trunk too.
Well, you just threw out
Well, no, because it's in the features. It's in the skeleton.
No, it has a huge hole in the face.
Exactly, but we know now that the hole's
because we have a live animal. But you said if we found just a skeleton.
Okay, but we could talk about animals like tapirs that also have proboscis, that also have holes in their faces, which we could.
So does the moose, and the moose has a huge bulbous nose.
Right, but we could ascertain that something like that existed on the animal, but the color would be completely different because there'd be no evidence for the color. So what I'm saying is you can palette swap these animals as much as you want, and it doesn't particularly matter to their environmental role. I mean, it does if you're talking about hunters and you're talking about... Obviously, color and camouflage patterns do matter, okay? But as far as for our understanding, it doesn't, because we're not actually observing these animals in a habitat. Obviously, they're extinct. So by giving it red spots or yellow stripes or blue skin. It's like, okay, that's fine, whatever. You can do that because we have no idea what the color would have been. But to add on a full-blown feature, something that's actually being used, because then if it has a frill, we have to start thinking about what does it use the frill for? How did the frill develop? Why does it have the frill? Was it used for hunting? Was it used for mating? Was it used for signaling?
9 times out of 10 is most of these weird features are on animals are mostly for sexual display.
I know, but that's
usually the number one go-to answer.
But the color along the same line doesn't really matter, because we could just say, yeah, it was blue because we like
the
blue.
artist wanted.
Exactly. But you can't say like, it's got a frill because of sex. That doesn't really work.
I mean, that's kind of what antlers and peacock tails and all that are
right.
pretty much for.
Right, exactly. But there's no evidence for the frill, and if you add on the frill, then you have to explain the frill. And you can say that it's for sex, but then there's no evidence. And that's the point, is the lack of evidence.
Okay. So, I guess a little thinking here.
Sure, take me through the thought experiment.
Well, I'm getting at, and I do understand your statement, is there are markers on a skeleton that show certain features. If you look at it through a microscope, you can see where tendons and muscles attach. We all know that. So, yeah, there are points on a skeleton where you can go, okay, so this is how it would roughly look like. But once you get past that point of muscles and get into the flesh of an animal, and this kind of goes back with the cassowary, would the bones of a cassowary show the wattle markers, or the crunkle, which is the stuff like on a turkey head, the like fleshy crap, or the comb of a rooster? You know, those things that wouldn't show markers that are there. So why is it wrong for an artist to add something like that when, yes, they don't show markers on the skeleton, but yet there are those type of features on those animals that, you know, nature provided? So that's what I was getting at, is how is it wrong for an artist to add a frill and a paleontologist to come along and rip you a new one, when in reality he doesn't know? Since we've never seen these animals, who's to say they didn't have one? Now, the whole venom part is where I draw the line, because that was just a venomous loogie. Seriously? I mean, if you had the animal with like the Komodo dragon biting a venom sac in the bottom of the jaw, and then it like pumps into with things, which by the way the tooth does not represent in the fossil, which would make perfect sense with your argument. But for something that does not show markers in the or on the bones, and for an artist to want to represent in a picture, because the natural animal world shows features like that, especially in birds, which the Dilo would be closest, even though it's a long train away from birds, still connects to the bird train, being a theropod. Why would that still be wrong?
Again, it comes back to the previous kind of argument that I laid out, which was it could be 100% accurate. Maybe Dilophosaurus had a crest like a rooster. We don't know.
Well, we know the crest on a Dilo was made out of bone and probably had keratin.
Right, but let's talk about like...
But for argument's sake...
let's say it's got... Or a wattle. Right? Yeah. Let's say it's got...
Because I've seen Dinosaur Revolution, they put a wattle on, I want to say... Guanlong, which is an early tyrannosaur from Asia. And they basically designed it like a cassowary. They had the bald head, the wattle, the colorations of a cassowary. So, would you tell them that they're wrong for doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, like I've already said, there's nothing in the fossil record other than lineage. You know, dinosaurs are closely related to birds. We can speculate from that, but it is all speculation. It's not evidence-based. And a lot of paleontology is speculation, but a lot of it is also evidence-based. You have to have that evidence to stay in accordance with the scientific method. The theory that is most widely accepted is the theory that provides the most evidence. Concrete evidence, not speculative evidence. And descendant, you know, looking at birds, that's all speculative evidence. It's not hard evidence. It's not where we've got a skeleton and we're looking at the skeleton. We say, look, it definitely had horns. Look, it has 3 fingers. Look, it's got 3 toes.
Well, technically 4 toes.
You know, yeah, you know what I mean.
But
it walks on 3 toes. Excuse me. It walks on 3 toes. To add on more features like that, it's mostly speculative, and it's okay to be on the speculative edge of paleontology, but to actually begin accepting those ideas, you need solid evidence.
Now, I never said accepting, but I said, how is it wrong for an artist to draw those features? And you said yes.
I just explained why.
But you're saying accepting it, but like, there's actual natural history museums with paintings of these animals supposedly in the flesh with these features. Are you going to tell the actual paleontologist that he's wrong for doing it?
Are we talking about... Well, I mean, first of all... Okay, this is getting into the anecdotal. This is fun.
Well, I find it fun because I'm getting to play devil's advocate for you, which is a rare occurrence.
So...
And... you know, it's one of those things that's like, this is a actual fun topic to discuss because there's a lot of pictures on the internet and people in the paleontology community that do draw animals.
Mm-hmm.
And with the the dinosaur revolution, I guess you want to call it, that's going on right now, that literally every 7 or 10 days there's new animals coming out, there's new evidence of this or that. So why is it that with all this new stuff going on that we're still giving the guy who draws the frill on the Dilophosaurus crap, when every day there's something it's not only new stuff coming out, but also it's like you guys are putting pictures in museums, actual museums that are accredited sources of scientific fact, and yet here you are going, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. So where's the fine line in this? Because
it's evidence-based. We've already kind of been through this argument a couple of times, so I'll reiterate thrice. Think about it like this: you can have those speculations, and it's fine, but our knowledge and our understanding of paleontology changes with evidence. It doesn't change with speculation. That's how we get in. That's where we came from. When paleontology first started, it was all speculative. You had the wacky reconstructions in oh my god, I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, in London, you have the wacky Crystal Palace Parks. You have the wacky reconstructions there. That's all speculative.
Well, that's when we only found 2 or 3 bones, and we're trying to put a whole animal together.
We then moved from the speculative into the evidential. Right? We found more evidence. We started to progress further in the field. But to continue back into the speculative, and it's okay to be speculative, but don't expect people to start accepting it as fact until you have concrete evidence for it in the fossil record, because that's the only way that we actually would know what these creatures really looked like. We can speculate they're related to birds. Okay, maybe they had wattles, maybe they had feathers, maybe they had all different types of features like birds, but they're also related to reptiles, so maybe they had scaly skin, or maybe they had leathery skin, or maybe they had different types of skin. And you can speculate that on that all day until you get blue in the face. And you can speculate on different features on different animals all day until you get blue in the face. But until the evidence that we have, the concrete evidence, starts to show something in that direction, all it is speculative and should not be put into museums like that as concrete fact. Because like you've said a couple of times now, the evidence could change in a week. And then it would be not scientifically accurate. I would say scientifically current. So the best way to make the animals timeless, if you were trying to put them forward and trying to teach people about them, is to stay on the cautious side and go from concrete evidence and stay away from the speculative. Because then in 2 years, we might be laughing our asses off at Prehistoric Planet because it's so far off, right? Mm-hmm. So, but if they were to, if you're staying closer to that concrete evidence, it's like the venomous T-Rex bite that everybody likes to laugh at in Jurassic Fight Club now.
Yeah,
the evidence was coming, and then the evidence sucked, right? So they were speculating, and then no evidence backed up that speculation, and now we all just kind of laugh at it. So if you want to,
bad to begin with.
So if you want to teach people, and you want to make the animal as timeless as possible, to put it in a museum and say this is what Tyrannosaurus Rex looked like, you play on the cautious side, you stay away from the speculative, you go off of the hard concrete evidence, and you recreate the animal like that.
All right. So basically, you said your whole point is
we could be totally wrong.
It's okay to do it, just baby steps.
Well, it's not even that. It's okay to do it when you find the evidence for it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Baby steps. Stay in the realm of reality,
right.
Not crazy, putting an elephant trunk on a petasaurus.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I've seen someone...
I've seen it too.
Yeah.
So that's my whole point, is you stay within your realm of reality to... And here's the thing. Our understanding might be completely wrong. But it is our understanding...
has proven that one.
Exactly. Our understanding might be completely wrong, and it might never, ever be correct. You could be right. There could have been a Frillon or Dilophosaurus, and we will never find a fossil representing it. But we cannot say that it did. And we shouldn't say that it did until we find the evidence for it. Just because there is nothing saying that it didn't, doesn't mean that it did.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The speculative artwork and representations in both paleo media of all types probably should stay more grounded in reality and closer to the fossil record,
right? Like
you said, than to go with the whole. Now, going back to the Dilophosaurus, that was a complete Hollywood let's do it just to look cool in a movie. However, since that, every Dilophosaurus I've ever seen in like a one of those walkthrough dinosaur attractions, it will look realistic with the proper head, the proper size. But you either see a frill on it, like the JP one, or it will have a spitting water gimmick,
right?
Which, again, venomous loogie.
Yes.
So I think what we're trying to get at, and both me and Carl, is it's okay to want to put some flashy ornament on it, your drawing, but stay in the realm of reality and don't go balls crazy.
Yeah, don't go wild with it. It's okay to... It's fun to speculate. It's okay to speculate, but don't do it and expect to be taken seriously or expect to be in a position of authority.
Yeah.
So,
and that's basically what I was trying to get at with when I pitched this idea, was with so much changing in paleontology every day, it's one of those things that's like, yeah, there's I mean, just like in Prehistoric Planet with the Jornada scene, they had air sacs in the neck.
Yeah.
And I think you saw the clip that I sent you. It's like, yeah, that's interesting, but where's the evidence for
where's
that?
the real evidence?
I mean,
we know it had air sacs in its skeleton.
Yeah, and the skeleton to make it lighter and all this other stuff, but it's like pushing the air sac out of your body to display to females was kind of...
It's speculative.
Yeah. That
it might be on the cutting edge of speculation, but it's still speculative, and you're now presenting it to the public as... fact. And that distorts the view, and then when another documentary comes out in a year or two, we might all be sitting around laughing at Prehistoric Planet, you know?
Yeah, so that's basically what I was getting at, is... just to use, and that's kind of why I wanted you to be part of this discussion, because you're kind of like the anchor in, I guess, the team to, what crap, I lost on my train of thought. It's a very small train, but I lost it.
It's just a conga line.
It's like two little brains out. Oh, sorry. But no, you always look at something from an outside point of view, so it's more fun to debate with you about some of these topics, instead of having a guy that basically just agrees with you, and then it's like there's no learning or push and pull.
Right.
So this is Josh,
and this is Carl,
signing off. Thank you. Bye.